Croc, Legend of the Gobbos is a standout genre title for the Sega Saturn. What I mean is that the mid to late 90s for console games was practically dominated by 3D action platformers, and none were more popular than the Collectathon. Games like Banjo-Kazooie, Super Mario 64, and Spyro the Dragon, just to name a few, were masters of their domain. The Saturn, however, never really had games like that. You had your platformers and your 3D platformers, but none were of the immense scope of the titles I just mentioned. Many reasons could be to blame for that. Either Sega had other priorities, the console wasn't really powerful enough for a game like that, or interest in the platform simply waned before a game like that could make it to market. It's that type of legacy for the console that allows a game like Croc to stand out, because there's really no other game like it for the system. Sure, there's games like Ninpinman Mario and Burning Rangers, but if you wanted a dedicated collectathon platformer on the Saturn, like it or not, Croc is really all you got. And let me tell you, this game has aged, like, in a bad way. Released for the Sega Saturn as well as the Sony PlayStation and the PC in 1997, Croc is a 3D action platformer developed by Argonaut Software. Hot off the heels of their relationship with Nintendo and the creation of Star Fox, Argonaut hoped to take that tech and create a 3D platformer starring Yoshi for the big N. However, Nintendo had bigger aspirations with Super Mario 64 and turned down Argonaut's proposal. That didn't stop Argonaut though, as they took their little 3D platformer that could, landed a publishing deal with Fox Interactive, and Croc Legend of the Gobbos was born. The game starts with a little old baby Croc being raised by these little fuzzball things, the titular Gobbos. Then this dude Baron Dante shows up and starts wrecking shit. Now it's up to Croc to save the day. The most minimalistic story you can imagine, but it's really all this game needs. You're greeted with an overworld map and thrown into the first level. Right away you're contending with your first obstacle. No, not that thing. The controls. While Super Mario 64 was busy revolutionizing 3D movement in games, Croc was left contending with the limitations of its target platforms, and thus uses tank controls. And honestly, at the start, it's really not so bad. Croc moves around briskly, his little spin attack feels responsive, he can strafe, and he has a slick little quick turn. His jumping, however, can feel a little hit and miss. You're allowed a bit more movement in the air, and that doesn't constrain you to the tank controls. I feel like they did a decent job with it given the limitations, but it'll start to rear its ugly head in the later levels. The game also offers an option to use the 3D controller, but this only amounts to the illusion of free movement. Croc still acts like he moves with the tank controls. Of course, with it being a 3D platformer, there's tons of stuff to collect in each level. While the levels themselves are much tinier in scope compared to its contemporaries, they feel much more focused as a result. You got these crystals that are scattered around everywhere that act as your health, similar to rings in Sonic games. You got the Gobbos themselves, which is the primary story collectible. These are imperative for 100% completion. Then you've got 5 different colored gems in each stage. Collecting all of these will open up a bonus room with even more Gobbos inside to collect. There's also keys to find that unlock Gobbos trapped in cages and open locked doors. It all seems pretty straightforward, and it is. The early goings are pretty simple to figure out with the stages, but it's when things get more complex that it all starts to go downhill. The controls are this game's major downfall. The game will start throwing more complex platforming challenges at you, only for you to realize that the controls just aren't well suited for these later levels. More often than not, I found myself just walking off the platforms because the game just doesn't register my jumps at all. You have to stop and take your time with each jump, but sometimes you can't have patience to take your time because the damn platform below is about to give away at any moment. And the boss battles, holy shit, these boss battles suck ass! They're all terrible, each and every one. The hit detection is what ruins these fights. I feel like I'm feet away from them, but I just get hit constantly. Also, these fights have no crystal gems in them to allow you to take hits. You have to go into the fight with some. If you die and restart the fight, you'll have no gems on you, which means instant death. Start the whole level over. It's one thing to hit a challenging roadblock, but to be stuck at one that is just broken and unfair makes for an incredibly frustrating experience. Also, the swimming sucks dick. Like, there's no other way around it. The swimming just sucks. So, of course, they give you a swimming boss battle. Oh, shit, this sucks! These frustrating things aside, there are some pretty fun things to do here. A lot of the secret rooms have fun little minigame challenges to complete, like a little whack-a-mole game or trying to stop a constantly moving box. There's quite a few of these, and they mostly work because they're designed with limited controls in mind. This is what this game should have been. More of these, rather than progressively more complex platforming challenges that are beyond the flexibility of the controls. Another big thing holding back Croc is the presentation. This game will chug for what feels like no reason. I've had moments where there's quite a bit of stuff on screen where it just runs fine, and then I'm in a more confined place where there's so much slowdown. The performance is just so inconsistent and only adds to the frustration. Also, when capturing footage, I got some pretty intense and nightmarish graphical glitches. I have a flashed action replay cart with Pseudo Saturn on it, and whenever it was plugged in, I got all this to happen consistently in both my Japanese and American Saturns. But yeah, this pretty much renders the game unplayable, so just a heads up. Croc, Legend of the Gobbos is a cute and colorful 3D platformer that's held back by its controls and the developer's own failure to design a fun and fair game around them. It leads you in optimistically, only to crumble the platform right out from under you. It's definitely not the worst game ever, but there are better ways of spending your time than with this. Upon its release, Croc was received favorably and is fondly remembered by those who played it way back when, especially on the PlayStation. It seemed like Croc was destined for greater things, even getting a sequel on the PlayStation and Game Boy Color. And even though it was advertised on the back of its manual, the Saturn never got Croc 2. But seeing how Croc 1 turned out on here, that's probably for the best.